the ED of MIT a signal that please help me up here. I guess it's not an African thing. Director of Ceremonies, thank you very much for the opportunity. The Honorable Deputy Minister of Industrialisation and Trade, my sister Honorable Verna Sinimbo, Madam Alka Bhatia, the UN Resident Representative in Namibia. Let me just stand on the already established protocols because my other colleagues, of course, you understand these things. In the private sector, time is money. So I'm glad that we are almost here, not almost here, we're finally here. I'm pretty sure Stacy, MIT, and all the other stakeholders, today is probably a wow moment for us. Because I know there's a lot that has been happening in the background that probably many would not be aware of. But I know we appreciate all the efforts that you've been putting together to ensure that, first of all, Namibia ratifies the agreement as one of the countries that have really actually ratified it. But also at national level to ensure that whatever commitments we have to meet in terms of realizing this milestone, we are actually on track. And as NCCI, we are appreciative of the fact that we've actually been involved in many of these activities, serving on the national committee that is actually monitoring the implementation strategy. We are appreciative of that. Now, before I actually get to my very brief statement, I just want to, just by a raise of hand, and I hope, Honorable Deputy Minister, when I ask this question, you look around. How many in this room, 100% understand or have heard about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement? By a raise of hands. Thank you. How many of you know just a little bit? You've just heard about it, but not so much, but just know a little bit of it. Raise of hands. Okay. All right. How many don't know? You just probably have heard this head, but you don't really know what this is all about. But I saw a few hands on the others. So at least we all know something about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, right? Do we? The young people that are in this room, do you know anything about that? Little, come see, come see. Okay. Yeah, I'll leave most of the information, I'm sure, would actually be probably uploaded and highlighted by our Honorable Deputy Minister. But I think for most of us, we understand that this is an opportunity that will provide market access for most of our businesses within the continent, to integrate our businesses within the continent, to ensure that that regional integration is actually realized, and that is actually speaks to the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. Now, Agenda 2063, I'm not so sure whether I'll be there in 2063, but I believe that many of the young people that are here will be there. And it's important that you understand this. It's important because you are the role players that will actually realize that Agenda 2063. I get very worried that even now when I ask young people, some of the young people, have you ever seen Vision 2030, the document? They say no. So, unfortunately, even the ministries of education, I hope they would have been here. When we were growing up in our primary schools, we already knew about the African Union. Then it was the Organization of African Unity. From the school levels, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement must not be something that should only be heard in these kind of rooms. It should start at the grassroots. Because the people that are going to actually make sure that they also benefit from this are at the grassroots level. Most of the African states, African countries are comprised of the micro and small businesses at the grassroots level. They comprise the majority of our economies. And if the information is only discussed in these rooms where we use all the jargon, trade names that they don't understand, we will leave them behind. So we don't want this agreement to only be seen as one that is only benefiting the elites. It must be all inclusive. And that is why this moment is very important for Namibia. Because everybody who's in this room, whether you're a student, whether you're a small entrepreneur, and all else, whatever you get, you're going to be also an ambassador of this nation to go back to your community and speak what this actually entails. Because the moment you leave these people out wherever, the Nigerians will come, the Ghanaians will come. I'm talking about the SMEs in Ghana, SMEs in Nigeria. They will come in the space. And we'll be here In this time, Africa cannot be speaking about foreigners. We can't be speaking about foreigners in this state, in Africa. Because every African here, we are opening up all these borders to ensure that there's free movement of goods and people. We can trade freely. We're talking about tariffs. It's a reduction of tariffs, in fact, almost elimination of the tariffs and trade tariffs. That is what it entails, to ensure that you can get all the economies. Now, I want to give you an example. Stacy was actually laughing at me because she understands this, Many of you in these meetings usually you see me wearing suits. So today I decided I'm gonna just put up this wrapper. And there's a handbag there. Just lift it up, Esther. Do you see that? It's matching my outfit. So it makes me one of the best dressed African women ladies in this room tonight. Of course, after the MC and Madam Sinimbo. But I'll tell you the story behind this. I went to Ghana, and everybody was telling me in Ghana, no, there's this place where you can get cheap things and whatever, clothing and whatever. And there were very beautiful clothing there. And I said, okay, I'm just going to get some materials. And they wondered, because usually when Africans go there, you just don't buy material. You want somebody to make something for you. You don't just come back. So I said, no, I just want the materials. And they asked me, why? I said, don't worry, just give me the materials. I want to get materials. And when I got here, I went to one of the SMEs that make the bags. I said, here's the material, you're going to make this bag for me. And you can see that beautiful bag that I'm wearing was made by a Namibian. So I got the cheap resource from Ghana, and the product was made by a Namibian, and it's worn by a Namibian. That's exactly what the free trade agreement actually entails. But we have to be very much at the forefront of information and understand, because no matter how these campaigns will actually happen, we'll launch this campaign. If you to just be one of those things that you just look at and say, oh, okay, it's MIT, it's NCCI, that's who taking whatever, you'll be left behind. Because I'm not going to be going door to door. It's not like the politicians that go door to door in order to campaign. This is an information session where we say, please, here's the information. We're sharing to everybody else there. What you don't understand, please come and we talk. And that's why the role of the private sector is very important. When we engage with government and their understanding, it's us to reveal to our stakeholders, our business, our governments, what are the bottlenecks that are really hampering us. And the trading environment must be made conducive for the business to actually operate. And I think Namibia is actually well on track in doing that. It's really the implementation that we have to really pay attention to. Because we know very well, sometimes we have very good policies, but it's the implementation. And we need to hold people accountable when they do not live up to what their responsibilities. It's usually very frustrating for businesses when you know, here's the policy, the law says this, but then the implementers that are supposed to support businesses seem to actually be making all of those actually processes quite difficult for us. We are your partners. In this country, we should not be speaking about us and them. When we are here, we're Namibians. And that's one thing that also worries me in the private sector. I have never heard of a Mwiya Shikongo group of companies. And yet the people that we want to compete with are coming as joint ventures, partners that are coming to compete, but we want to go it alone. So the operation in silos must actually be addressed seriously, because we're not going to be very competitive when we want to actually operate in silos. It's not a time for us to actually be into all these groupings of regional groupings, whatever. We need to be moving together as a united nation to realize that goal. Otherwise, others will come into the space that know exactly the strategies of partnership, of joint ventures and whatever, and then take up our spaces. And we can't do anything about it because we have ascended to this agreement. We need to make sure that we prepare ourselves well. And as NCCI, our role is to make sure that we come as one of your focal information points, where you can get information on how you can actually be able to benefit from this African Free Trade Agreement. We are a member of the International Chamber of Commerce, the ICC, and in there is actually a platform that was actually now launched, the E-Trade Hub, where small business, particularly in women, you can actually be able to get information, and you see in terms of what products are actually there that you can actually tap in terms of the value chains, customs issues, what are the customs issues that are related to actually getting those products in. So you use us as much as possible. You don't really have to be a member. Of course, I encourage you to be a member because then at least you get networks. But when you're not a member, then I charge you for my time. So that is why I'm actually encouraging. Just make sure that we come. Ours is really to support businesses. We're working with government, together with government, to ensure that businesses are well supported. And I think we are doing quite well in the region. especially for SMEs, quite expensive. So at least that system, once actually implemented, would make actually the conversion of currencies and make actually more savings, particularly for SMEs. And that is really the point of call that we actually call that this is a very defining moment for us. And the messages that we will be sending, let us make them as much simpler in layman's language as possible so that everybody is able to understand and gets on board. And that is really the message that we want to send here. So congratulations to everybody that has been in this whole process. Stacey and your team, Ministry of Industrialisation, we appreciate you so much. And as a chamber, we have regional offices throughout the country. We have regional representation everywhere. And the fact that of our membership